We've all been in this situation. A guard looks at you funny, and you decide they need to be taught a lesson. What's this though? There was a weapon amnesty the other day, and you're unarmed. Guess you'll just have to punch everyone to death. Oh dear. That didn't work out too well. If only there was some other way to deal with enemies when you had no physical weapons. Surprise! There is. Skyrim contains dozens of different spells that the player character can utilise. Today I present to you the top 10 spells in Skyrim. These were chosen through an incredibly scientific process which I am not at liberty to disclose, and most certainly wasn't just personal preference. Oh no, these are objectively the 10 best spells, in order, so I'm sure none of you will disagree in the comments. Anyway, onto the list now, starting with DRAGONHIDE. This is a master level alteration spell which reduces all physical damage by 80%. This is equivalent to having a maxed out set of armour and can make you incredibly difficult to kill. Despite being a very strong spell, it does have a few drawbacks. First is the high base magicka cost of 837. This obviously can be reduced in a variety of ways, but unless you're enchanting everything with Fortify Alteration, you're still going to need to have spent a fair few level ups on magicka to cast it. When you do end up casting it, the charge up time is somewhat excessive, making it impractical to use in the middle of a fight, which is when you'll most need it, as it only has a base 30 seconds duration. This can be increased with a stability perk or through dual casting, but then it will still max out at less than 2 minutes total time. Still, it's a very potent spell, if a little difficult to use on the fly, so it gets the number 10 slot. Coming in at number 9, we have the Bound Bow, an adept level conjuration spell with a base magicka cost of 206. Casting this spell grants you a magical bow with a base damage rating of 18, and bound arrows with a base damage of 24. This is on the strong end as far as bows are concerned, and this one doesn't weigh anything or require you to keep track of how many arrows are in your quiver. As it's a bow, it's obviously affected by all perks and enchantments that govern bows, meaning this can be a powerful weapon for a sneak archer, especially if you're not fond of smithing. Additionally, the bound perks in the conjuration tree can give an extra 6 base damage to the bow, give it an unlimited soul trap enchantment, and allow it to banish danger and cause undead to flee. All in all, it's one of the best ranged weapons in the game, and more than deserving of a place on this list. I had considered giving it a much higher place on the list, but as it is only suited towards archers, I decided to only put it at number 9. At 8th place we have Invisibility, the perfect spell for thieves and assassins alike. This expert level illusion spell does exactly what it says on the tome, rendering you invisible for 30 seconds. The spell plays nicely into any stealth-based character, be they primarily a mage or simply wish to augment their natural skills. At base magicka cost 334, you will have to work some way towards being able to cast it, but it can prove far more efficient in the long run than carrying around dozens of invisibility potions. Sadly, the spell does make noise and doesn't also muffle your footsteps, so if you want to remain undetected whilst invisible, it's worth muffling yourself and obtaining the quiet casting perk in order to maximise the spell's usefulness. Next on the list is Storm Thrall. This master level conjuration spell summons a Storm Atronach which won't leave your side until it's been destroyed. I chose the Storm Atronach over Flame or Frost as it strikes a nice balance of tanky follower with a mixture of close and long range attacks, making it useful in nearly all situations. The Elemental Potency perk increases the Atronach's health by 50%, and investing in Twin Souls allows you to summon 2 instead of 1, doubling how useful this spell is. For me, the greatest boon from this spell comes from the fact you can cast it days before you enter combat, meaning there's no need to drain your magicka mid-fight, or switch from other weapons and spells you might be using. The Storm Thrall spell does have a staggering 741 base magicka cost, but this can be reduced with Fortify Conjuration Enchanted Armour or Clothing, items that you can put on just for casting the spell, and then switch over to your standard gear for the rest of time. Our number 6 choice is Poison Rune. This adept level restoration spell, initially added with the Dragonborn expansion, allows you to place a mystical rune on the ground which will detonate into a small poison cloud once an enemy steps on it. Poison damage has some pretty big pros and cons in this game. Although it doesn't do much to the undead or constructs, it can utterly devastate high-level enemies who may have tons of magic resistance and armour. If you find your normal approach isn't working out well, then this spell can often be the exact thing you need. As it's a rune spell, you're able to leave it as a trap, or use it more offensively by simply casting it at the target's feet. Compared to other runes, it manages to cost half as much, sitting at a very respectable base 146 cost, and also deals a total of 90 points of damage over 30 seconds. This means for almost half the cost you can deal twice the damage, and I really need to kick myself into gear and make a build based around this spell already, because it really is just that good. At the midway slot now, we have Chain Lightning. This Adept Destruction spell has a base cost of 156, and inflicts a base 40 points of damage to the target it hits. Once the first hit connects, additional bolts will then spawn forth, damaging any other nearby enemies, making this spell ideal for crowd control, or swiftly wiping out a room of low-level enemies. Able to be buffed with Augmented Shock, Dual Casting, and Disintegrate, this can also get to some rather high damage numbers. Tie in the Impact perk, making Dual Cast Destruction spells stagger, and this spell really comes into a whole element of its own. Not only proving a powerful offensive ability, but also a good control spell, allowing you to stagger multiple approaching enemies at once. A Destruction Mage with the Impact perk is one of the strongest builds if used correctly, and this is a perfect spell for such a build. But why bother killing enemies when you can get them to do it themselves? The Adept level illusion spell Frenzy comes in at number 4. This 209 cost spell will enrage all targets within a small radius of impact, as long as they're a low enough level. Although the base level this spell affects is only level 14, this can be improved with various perks in the illusion tree. The spell can be used effectively in a variety of situations. If you're outnumbered and want to even the odds, need to assassinate a target without it reflecting badly on you, or just want to watch the citizens of Whiterun tear Nazim apart, this one spell does it all. Plenty of builds have been built around this spell in the past, and I've had a lot of fun incorporating it into several of my own. This truly is a spell that every Skyrim player should experience at some point or another. Into top 3 territory now, starting with Paralyze. This expert level alteration spell costs a hefty base 450 magicka to cast, but it's well worth it in my opinion. This spell paralyzes targets for 10 seconds, 15 if you've taken the stability perk. Whilst paralysed, targets can do nothing and simply fall to the ground, ready to either be slain or walked away from. With this spell you can incapacitate anything up to and including a giant, allowing you space to breathe and decide what the best course of action is. Although not directly powerful, this is often the main reason I level up Alteration, as it provides you so many more options in a fight, and can swiftly turn the tide of battle in ways you might not realise. At number 2, we have Ignite. This apprentice-level destruction spell can only be cast if you have equipped the Ring of Arcana, a unique ring found in Colbjorn Barrow on the island of Solstheim. You'll have to complete 3/4 of the Unearthed quest and spend 6,000 gold in order to just acquire the ring that lets you cast this spell, but that is a bargain as far as I'm concerned. For only a base magicka cost of 30, you can send out a blast of fire which deals 4 points of damage a second for 15 seconds. That totals out at 60 points of damage per blast, not including any bonuses from potions, dual casting, augmented flames, or the Aspect of Terror perk. With these perks, you can actually end up with the total damage being 315 points over 15 seconds, which really shows off why this spell is so high on the list. Sacrificing the ring slot on your character in order to cast this spell is a trade you should make every time. My Pyromancer build used this spell to devastating effectiveness 2.5 years ago, and the spell remains the greatest damage dealer that Skyrim has to offer. Stack a few of these together, and watch your enemy's health bar drain before your very eyes. It is time. The greatest spell in all of Skyrim, the only spell worthy of holding the number 1 place on this list, is Healing. That's right, Healing. The novice restoration spell that every single character starts the game with is the best spell in all of Skyrim. Some of you might be shocked and appalled that I put this here. After all, second place was a literal giant melter. Why is this super generic and well-known spell the best the game has to offer? Well, there's a reason it's so well known, and that's because all of us use it on just about every single character we play as. Since the very first day Skyrim released, this spell has been a literal lifesaver to each and every one of us. We might have misjudged how far the drop would be, got jumped by a pack of wolves, or be trying to fight our way up to High Hrothgar. Healing has been there for us no matter what. Whenever we start a new character, who's there for us? Healing. Healing is always there to help us survive the dangerous lands we find ourselves in. Hadvar and Ralof only help you out if you side with them, but healing could care less if Alduin devoured the world. All it wants to do is help you in the only way it can, restoring your health at 10 points a second. It's the true workhorse of every Skyrim character, and it's about time it got its shot in the limelight. Here's to you, healing. Saving lives for over 8 whole years now. And there we have it, the top 10 spells in Skyrim. Now obviously this was a subjective list. Well, besides that final entry, which we all agree is the best spell of them all. If you disagree on any of the other entries though, then feel free to let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more in the future, and give the video a like if you agreed with some of my choices. Also share the video, because that's what really matters. As always, I want to thank you all for watching. Sarge out.